Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight I wanted to share with you one of my favorite fruits, actually one of my favorite foods in general. Over the years people have asked me, how do you cut this fruit, how do you store it, and I want to share it with you guys tonight. It's a pomegranate, and pomegranates go back to ancient Persia. They're one of the oldest fruits actually known to man. They are dominant in almost every culture. This pomegranate is actually by POM, which is a great supplier of pomegranates. I've never gotten a bad pomegranate from POM, so they're great. So what you're going to do first is you need a knife and a bowl filled with water. Okay, the reason why you need a bowl filled with water is because when you cut the pomegranate, all the little seeds and arrows are going to kind of spray everywhere, and it can really stain your clothes and your hands and anything else that it touches. There are a couple different ways to go about this. Personally, I take the pomegranate and I cut it right down the middle, and this is just one cut straight down on a cutting board. And as you can see, it reveals all of the arrows inside. The arrows are actually the seeds of the pomegranate. They're really yummy. They're really good. I just cut it once here, and then I bring my bowl over and pop it directly into the bowl. And as you can see, as I cut it excuse me, again, the water is turning a little bit red. So to avoid that, once you get a good cut in, you want to gently pull the arrows out with your hands. You know if you're being too rough with it. If your water starts turning very red. And they have these little protective layers of membrane over each set. So you just kind of pull these out. And you don't want to eat this part. It's not good. Try not to have any of it left on your little arrows once you get them out, just because it gets caught in your throat, it doesn't taste good, you're not really supposed to eat it, so I wouldn't go for it. While I'm doing this, there's actually a really cool legend about the pomegranate that I came across when I was a little kid, and that's what really got me into pomegranates. I'll put this up so you can see me a little bit while I'm telling you the story. It's actually the legend of Santa Claus, part of his legend. And it's said that the reason why Santa Claus stays so young is because there's this fearsome dragon who guards a pomegranate tree. I forgot exactly where it's at, it's been a long time ago, but this dragon guards the pomegranate tree, and Santa Claus goes up there every couple hundred years or so and challenges the dragon to a fight. And if he wins against the dragon, he gets to eat a few of the pomegranate seeds. And these special pomegranate seeds are what keeps him immortal and bringing toys and joy to children all around the world. That was the first major pomegranate story I ever came across. The next one, oh, and while you're undoing the pomegranate, getting the arrows out, you might find some that look like that. They're just dull in color. Toss those to the side. They're overly ripe. They might have been a bit bruised on the outside. Remember, just go ahead and keep that underwater. And you don't need them. There are plenty of arrows in the sea. You get what I mean, you don't really need these. Okay. So another story that I came across when I was about in 6th grade, was the story of Persephone. Now, Persephone was the daughter of Demeter. Demeter was the Greek and Roman goddess of the harvest and goddess of the seasons, and Persephone was Demeter's only daughter, so thus favorite daughter. And one day Persephone was out in one of her mother's hundreds of thousands of millions of fields, because she basically owned all of them, and she was picking wildflowers. Now, in Greek mythology, anytime a young girl is out picking wildflowers in a field, you know trouble is about to happen. So she's picking wildflowers, but she doesn't realize she's being watched. Hades, the god of the dead, is watching her from under the ground. He wants her to be his bride because she is so gorgeous and so sweet and innocent and beautiful. She's basically the opposite of Hades himself. And he decides he can't wait for her. He doesn't want to ask her to come. He splits the ground open and he swallows her up and takes her into his underworld. And he keeps her there for days and days and days. And her mother is grief-stricken and looking for her on Earth. And the days start to turn into weeks and months. And Persephone is beginning to lose hope that she'll never get away from Hades. She did not like it there with him at all. So poor Persephone is starving, she's cold, she's alone, she wants her mother. She goes walking in the Garden of the Dead one day. And she knew it was said, if you eat the food of the dead, you can no longer walk among the living. She was so hungry, and she came across a beautiful pomegranate tree. The fruit was red on the outside, just like this one. Beautiful, beautiful, like ruby red color. And she opened the pomegranate and took out 4 seeds and ate them when she thought no one was looking. Well, you can't fool the gods. Finally, Demeter found out where her daughter was and came down to get her. Hades didn't want to let her go, so Demeter took it to Zeus, the king of the gods, who was actually Demeter's brother. And he said that since Persephone had eaten 4 of the pomegranate seeds, she would have to stay under the ground for 4 months out of the year, away from her mother, away from the light, and become Hades' wife. But the rest of the year she could spend above ground with her mother. And this agreement was only come to because Demeter refused to make the harvest come again. She refused to sow the land and make it fertile for crops. And that is the story of how we got winter. Because in those 4 months, while Persephone is down below, Demeter is in mourning over her daughter and refuses to make hardly anything grow on land except the hardiest plants that can survive on their own. And it all stemmed from a pomegranate tree. Pomegranates have also been featured in medieval scenes of love and romance. You can see them in many tapestries. If you type in medieval Renaissance and pomegranate onto an online search engine, you get a ton of beautiful pictures and tapestries. Okay, now, since we've been doing story time, I have taken out half the arils of this pomegranate, and what you're going to want to do is see all of these membranes. They all float along the surface. So you can just stick your hand in, make sure you washed them before you started doing this, and then you can pick through and take all the teeny little bits that are stuck on of the membrane and just put them over to the side. And now what I like to do is I have this tomato holder. It's nice and small and compact, but I personally take a little bit of paper towel and put it right in here, take pomegranate seed